Bank will be presenting them with a plaque. They will also receive a belt buckle. The winner of this will also be eligible for the Heartland Throwdown. The champion for today's Sheep Show will advance to the Heartland Throwdown. The champion will also receive a qualifying banner that has graciously been donated by our local Heartland Throwdown sponsor, Fairview Vet Clinic. Representatives from our county will compete against 7 other champions. We welcome you to join us at Story County Fairgrounds in Nevada on Saturday, July 27th. The show will begin at 12:30 p.m. The winner selected at the Heartland Throwdown will then punch their ticket to the All Iowa Showdown in August. Come out and support your youth from Team Greene County. Greener's Red Power was the sponsor of the Supreme U belt buckle. All right, this class is the commercial Ram Lamb class. This is Emma Stevenson.
Kind of like we said in our yearly U class, you never know what to expect from a single injury ram class
at the county fair, but boy, this thing is really, really nice. I think we mate this thing to our U that wins that class in their last division. I think we got something special because that thing is obnoxiously big racked. He's so big and fresh in terms of his loin edge. He's stout in his upper hip, and he maintains a good look from the profile with some extra bells and whistles as far as his neck attachment's perfect, huge in terms of our foot, and heavy duty in our structure. I think that thing's going to be a really nice one for this young lady to go ahead and put into production. Let's give her a round of applause as we send her back to the barn.
That young lady has a big smile on her face. She'll receive champion. All right, we're getting ready for our feeder lamb class. We're going to need our first class of the speckled white-faced youth class from 115 to 119 pounds to the back of the ring. This class is from 59 to 83 pounds. We have Aspen Jacobs, Madison Carson, and Aspen has the second one. Everybody that receives champion and reserve champion, don't forget to come to the back of the ring and have your pictures taken in front of the big banner.
Young lady
Closest to me, he's got my personal favorite. One that from the outside looks like a little baby fat steer. Huge in terms of his bone work, good in terms of his underline quality. You get your hands on him is where he blows the class away. He's the biggest in his rack and loin and the stoutest in his hip. I know the dwarf gene is probably a new thing, at least for me. Wasn't really a thing when I was showing. This one's probably got a shot of that, and it's kind of hindered his ability to gain. But at the same time, I still think all the things that come with those D's, there's a lot of good there in that sheep as far as spread to pin, still balanced, attractive one. I think he's an easy place to start. The one that's going to slot next, I think, goes there from a muscularity standpoint as well. Square in her rack, square in her loin, stout in her upper hip, still maintains good underline quality. So I compare her back to my personal favorite. I do think she has more reach and flex off both ends of her skeleton. She's not quite as stout there in terms of her actual foot size. Didn't think she was quite as elevated there at the point of her shoulder. The one that's going to round out the class, I do think, is the longer bodied, taller option. Still has plenty of foot and bone for one like this. So we compare her to the two ahead of her. She's a shot narrow at her base. She's a little flatter in her rib and gives up some muscle up high. But let's give all those kids a round of applause. Really nice class.
Aspen Jacobs took first and second in that class. We're going to need the white speckled base market lamb class 2 of 125 to 166 pounds to come to the back of the ring. And our next class up is the white speckled base market lamb class of 115 to 119 pounds. This class consists of Cheyenne Kylie, Emily Usuris, Tyler Pope, Becca Shahan, and Isaac Carver.
We're in the white face and white face cross division, and I'm here to tell you these two could win county fairs, jackpot shows, kind of all over the country, and they're that good. This one that we're going to land on wins because I think he's the most ready today. He's more pulled apart in terms of his cage. That thing is an absolute grown man right out of the backside of his shoulder. He's wider in terms of his loin, and you get him behind him. He just absolutely overwhelms the class as far as spread to his pins and shape through his lower leg. Just a really nice one to go ahead and start. Now the one that's going to be 2 is a little greener in terms of his condition, and I think as we project him on down the road, I think he could catch that one because he's longer and skinnier about his neck. He's laid in neater about his lower shoulder. I think that thing is leveler out of his hip and studies with a high quality look from the side. So I compare him back to my personal favorite. Gets a little plainer there right out of the backside of his shoulder, lacking some muscle just right there in the seat of his pants. But again, I think as we project him on down the road, we get him on a treadmill or a track program, that's big league sheep by the fall. The one that's going to go ahead and slot next studies with a good look as far as underline quality. Young man does a really good job of getting that one presented. For me, he's a little looser about his hide, and he gets a little off about his handle today, especially when we compare him to the 2 ahead of him. But I think as an individual, a high quality one. The one's going to slot next, taller fronted and stronger top line than the one directly ahead of him. One that I still think studies with a high quality look to her underline. Another one that we could just stouten up there right out of the backside of her shoulder. I think we could stouten her up in terms of her foot and bone as well. Stouter featured one that's going to round out the class as far as foot and bone. Height of shoulder still really good. Another one that's a little off there in terms of her loin. We could level her out to her dock to make her balance just a shot better. But a really, really nice class with a fun top pair to sort. Let's give those kids a round of applause.
First place in that class was Becca Shahan. Tyler Polk received second. Our next class is the speckled face market lamb, 125 to 166 pounds. We have 6 in this class. Olivia Burkett, Claire Smith, Mackenzie Wall, Ava Allen, Henry Desertis, and Emma Greene.
Young lady's got one that wants to fight her just a touch, but I think when he acts like a show sheep, this one wins, and he wins for fun. I think he's the best and freshest in terms of his look and presentation. You get your hands on him is when he absolutely blows the class away. So big and square in his rack, widest and freshest in his loin, a stout upper dock shape, just a really bulletproof, fault-free one to go ahead and win this particular class. Similar in terms of his type and kind, he's going to slot into second. Bigger in terms of his upper rib shape and still wide and fresh in terms of his handling quality. So I compare him back to my personal favorite. He's a little bit more average there in terms of his foot size. Didn't think he was quite as impressive in terms of his upper dock. The one that's going to slot third is a taller shouldered one, jet level down her top. Studies with a high quality look from the profile. Gives up some added muscle up high when we get our hands on her to the two that stand directly ahead of her, but from the outside, a high quality individual. The one that's going to slot next, a big, large outline kind of sheep. Heavy duty in terms of his bone work, wide across his loin, a little softer to the touch when we get our hands right on him. Didn't think he was quite shallow enough to compete with the three ahead of him. The one next, similar things can be said about. A big ribbed, practical kind of sheep that's good on his feet and legs. Obviously done a good job growing for this young lady. One that's a little too soft when we get our hands right on him, especially over his forerib. Didn't think he had quite as much muscle shape from behind. The one that's going to round out the class is a leaner, higher cut ability kind of sheep that reads with a little bit more shape up high. Just gets a little coarse and off about his top line and gets a little rounder about his hip. I think if he could just be a little more attractive, we could move him up a spot or two. Let's give all these kids a round of applause. A really nice class.
Emma Greene receives first, and Claire Smith gets second. We will now be showing for the champion and reserve champion, white speckled face market lamb. We're going to need the lightweight black face market lamb class 93 to 102 pounds to come to the back of the ring. We'd also like to thank Home State Bank today for sponsoring the live stream and furnishing us with water. We had Tyler Pope, Becca Shahan, Claire Smith, and Emma Greene in this class.
I guess after the Dorset U division, I should have known the specs and Dorset division and the market show was going to be tough. And I'd be proud of each and every one of these four that's out here, again, for what they are and where we're at. Leagues are better than I could have ever even imagined. There is one that I think kind of comes out here and wins for me. Just got a lot of muscle and still puts it together, I think, an attractive enough package. It gets close for reserve, and I think they're extremely similar in their type and kind. There's one that I think is just a little more elevated at the point of his shoulder. I think even here today, he packs just a little bit more power as we study him through his lower leg. The other one that's going to get left out here, maybe not just quite as elevated here yet today. I still think a green one with a bright future ahead of him. Let's give all these kids a round of applause. I'm going to give them one last look, and we'll name your champion, your reserve spec. Very good division.
right, your champion was Becca Shahan, and your reserve was Emma Greene. This is our first lightweight black-faced marching land class of 93 to 102 pounds. Beth Peyton Dollars has 2, Madison Carson, Elena Stevenson, Abel Shahan, Cody Taggart. I need the lightweight black-faced marching land class of 105 to 108 pounds to come to the back of the ring.
Really a neat way to start off our blackface division here. A young lady brings us one, kind of like we talked in that underweight class. Maybe has a D or 2 in him, but I'm not going to hold that against him because his parts and pieces he possesses, I think, are absolutely intriguing. That thing is so big-footed and heavy bone. He's so wide in terms of his forerib shape. Like some of those ones that are built like him, he's got a little bit more length extension than I'd term ideal. Wants to turtle down on the young lady from time to time, but boy, she does a rock star job of getting that thing stuck and presented. Just an absolute freak to go ahead and win this particular class. From a muscle perspective, the one that slots 2 is going to go ahead and go there. One that's so big in terms of her cage and so good in terms of her handling quality. She's a monster in terms of her foot and bone. So I compare her back to my personal favorite. She's not quite as impressive in terms of her upper dock, not quite as neat there in terms of her chest floor. We're getting pretty picky on one that I'd be really proud of. At this stage in the game, I think a really high quality one. The one that's in the slot next is easily the greenest in terms of his condition of my initial 3. Taller shouldered than the one directly ahead of him. Jet level out of his hip. Still big in terms of his pin set. So we compare him to the 2 ahead of him. I do think he gives up some right there in terms of his loin edge. In the end, he may catch those 2 because I think he's got a little more gas in the tank to make a bigger one. Today, though, we just need to be a little bit better there to move up. The one's going to slot next is another one. High quality as far as underline. Feminine about her head and neck. Gets a little tight there in terms of her spine, and we could stouten up in terms of her foot and bone and maybe a shot in terms of her upper hip, but I like her balance and silhouette. The one coming out next is a taller, longer-bodied kind of sheep. Length of hind saddle and length of hip is extremely good. We set her in motion. She maintains that with a really, really good stride. She's one that, for me, gets a little bit too tight in terms of her flank and off in terms of her lines, but I think another nice one for this young man. We're going to round out the class with these two that I think are good in terms of their lines and proportions. They're sheep that read to be just too green in terms of their condition. We need to pull them apart in terms of their base and rib to move up. But let's give all those kids a round of applause. Really neat one on the top.
First place in that class is Abel Shahan. Lena Stevenson received second. This is our lightweight black-faced Martin, ran class 2 of 105 to 108 pounds. We have Grace Hardaway, Jackson Turner, Madison Carson has 2, and Becca Shahan has 2.
extremely good top pair to sort here. And if you wanted to flip them, I guess I wouldn't argue with you too much because kind of up there until the end, I kind of had them the opposite direction. But boy, they both hit me extremely hard when they come in. The muscularity in this young lady's up here in the front, I think, is where you just have to start him. He's so big and square in his rack. He blends in smoother in his hip-loin junction than the one that's going to slot too, and he is just dripping with muscle when you get in behind him. So big in his upper pin set, yet still good in terms of his lines and proportions when we set him in motion. I think just a really nice place to start. The parts and pieces I appreciate a shot more in the 1 and 2. I think he's got more flex out of his hock when we set him in motion. I think he's a shot neater there in terms of his chest floor when we study him from the side. He's one that doesn't blend quite as well there in terms of his hip-loin junction. I honestly believe it's because he's so big in terms of his hip, it's just impossible for that loin to even try and blend in there. Past that, I think that sheep is big league good. Those parts and pieces he possesses are meant for the big stage. We get him to blend a little bit more with some fat. That thing's going to be really, really fun come August. The one that was in 3, that dark fibered sheep, heavy duty in his bone, so good in terms of his lines and proportions, gives up too much muscle to compete with those 2 ahead of him. The one in 3rd was the ewe lamb that wanted to fight that young man just a little bit too much. One that was really good in terms of her handle quality and base width and bone. Too plain from the profile to compete. The 2 we're going to round out the class with, I think, have some foot bone. They have some look as we study them up through their front ends. They just give up too much base width and muscle to compete with the ones ahead of them. Let's give all those kids a round of applause. A really fun top pair to support.
Back to shake hands at first and second in that class. We're now ready for the lightweight black-face market lamb class 3 of 109 to 115 pounds. Got Gabriel Shahan, Colin Taggart, Jackson Turner, Brianna Pope, Mackenzie Walt, Cody Stevenson in this class.
really another neat top pair to sort here. And if you wanted to flip them, I wouldn't argue with you too much. I think if we could combine the two, we'd have something really, really special. The farther reaching pieces, I think, are this young lady out here in the middle. She does a rock star job of getting that thing presented. He's huge in terms of his foot bone and base. That thing's turned to his stifle from the side, coupled with that thing's chest floor placement is just where I get really, really intrigued with him. So round and bold in his forerib. You can see his muscle shape from the outside. He's one that if I could blend him just a shot smoother there in his hip-loin junction, he'd win, and I think he'd win in a smoke. And that's where the 1 and 2 has the advantage. He's laid in neater there at the point of his shoulder again. He's wider, square, and smoother in his hip-loin junction. He, too, studies with a high-quality look from the profile. So I compare him back to my personal favorite. He just gives up some upper hip and some shape to his lower stifle. But again, that's splitting hairs on one. I think if we're moving into August with that guy, I'd be ultra proud to have him on feed. Sheep that's going to go ahead and slot next, I really appreciate from a handling qualities perspective. Square racked, fresh loin, has some turn through his lower leg. Just ran into some deep water with these two ahead of him. As an individual, I think he's got plenty. He just gives up some chest. He's a little deeper in his chest. He gives up some muscle shape up high. Just really two good ones ahead of him. The one that's going to slot next, fighting the young man a little too much, but I think one that if you can read through that, you got to appreciate the power and product he has. Big and square in his loin, really stout in his hip, still good in terms of his underline quality. Not quite as tall fronted and attractive like we said, but I think another high quality individual. Sheep coming out next, love the top line, love the length of hip and set to his hock that he has. A little deeper about his chest, a little off about his flank. I think if we could just make him a shot more attractive, again, he could move up a spot or two. Two sheep that are going to round out the class that have some spread to their tops and loins, ones that still study with a practical look from the profile. We just need to get some added muscle in them and maybe take a little chest floor out to make them a little more attractive. But again, great class top to bottom with a really, really fun pair to sort on top. Let's give those kids a round of applause.
Receiving first, April Mahan. Second is Brianna Poe. We're now going to be showing for the champion and reserve champion, lightweight black-faced Martin Lab. We need a medium white, first class black-faced Martin Lab to be coming to the back of the arena. In this class, we should have Elena Stevenson, April Shahan, Brianna Pope, Becca Shahan. The winner of this class will receive a banner. If you notice throughout the day, we've been passing out banners. Those are sponsored by the Greene County Land Producers.
We're only in Division 1 of the market show, and man, I'm telling you, there's 4 or 5 of these things out here right now that could go on and win a lot of county fairs in a lot of different places. We'll just kind of go through and just kind of brief discussion on all of them because I think we kind of sounded about the same in about every class winner, but there are some differences in these sheep. This one that's closest to me, man, I love that thing's just build and the way he looks from the outside. Little baby fat steer, extra fuzz, good in terms of his proportions. Don't know how much gas is left in the tank on that guy. Kind of what you see is what you get, I think. Don't know how much bigger he's going to get, but man, I think that's okay. Obviously, when we had a smaller showman on him, made that sheep even look a little bit bigger out here, but still, this young lady that's out here in the drive for him, doing a rock star job of getting that thing presented. The one directly behind him is one from a muscularity standpoint. You absolutely have to love that thing. You could see his shape from the outside as far as his rack and loin, extra big in terms of his upper hip, extra shape through his lower leg, and he's still a balanced, attractive sheep. Maybe not quite as elevated there in terms of his chest floor, maybe not quite as tall there at the point of his shoulder as some others, but man, I still think as an individual, I think that sheep's probably got enough. Then the sheep directly behind him is one that you love the balance and build on, yet he still couples that with all kinds of shape through his lower stifle. I think he is the neatest there as far as his chest floor. He's not perfect there in terms of his hip loin today. I love that thing's rack, but as we continue to project him on down the road, we're in Division 1. We got a lot of time, we got a lot of fat and a lot of filling yet to do on these things before August, or even as we project them on down into the fall. I think they're that good. Big league sheep, big league show. Let's give all these kids a round of applause. I'm going to give them one last look, and I'm going to name your champion in Reserve Division 1.
Champion was Angel Shahan, and reserve champion was Becca Shahan. We need a medium weight black face market land class 2 of 124 to 127 pounds. Comes to the back of the ring. The class we have now is the black face market land class 1 of 117 to 118 pounds. We have Adam Schroeder, Eli Hardaway, Gentry Hedges, Cheyenne Kiley, and Elena Stevenson.
Nice top pair to sort through here. And the one that's going to go ahead and win, we'll get it out of the way. I think that thing needs a chiropractor appointment away from just winning this thing and winning in a smoke. Because past him being a little off in his top line, I think that one's simply the best one. He's pulled apart in his lower skeleton. He's the best as far as handling quality. I love that thing's forerib shape. Underline reads of high quality. I love that thing's skull shape and width to his eyes he has. I think just a really, really nice one to go ahead and win. Kind of a fault-free one to go ahead and slot two. One that I do think is leveler there in terms of his top line. I think when we set him in motion, he maintains a better look there as well. One that for me just runs downhill just a touch when we get him on the profile. Didn't think he was quite as wide up there when we got our hands on him, especially in terms of his hip. The one that's going to slot next is very similar to the one that's going to go ahead directly in front of him. One that's good as far as her handling quality. She's good as far as her underline, just a little bit lower fronted, a little bit more average there as far as our foot size. I think we could just elevate her there at the point of her shoulder. She could easily move up a spot. The one that's going to go ahead and slot next, Greene in terms of her condition today. Length of spine, length of hind saddle, extremely good. Flexibility on the go is extremely good. Gives up some up high when we get our hands right on her. Just a little narrower out of the backside of her shoulder. I think more days on feed will benefit this one the most. Similar things can be said about the dark-hided sheep that's going to round out our class. Heavy duty in terms of his bone work, elevated there at the point of his shoulder. Really green in terms of his condition today, and reads to be the flattest in terms of his forerib shape. Let's give all those kids a round of applause. A nice class to sort.
Elena Stevenson received first, Abby Yoder received second. He's a medium weight Blackface market land class 3 of 129 to 131 pounds. Come to the back of the ring. Coming into the ring now is our medium weight Blackface market land class 2 of 124 to 127 pounds. This class consists of Parker Deersdorf, Joey Stevenson, Laura Hoyt, Diane Kylie, Greg Stewart, Isaac Carver, and Elena Stevenson.
Another really nice top pair to sort through here. But young man kind of wins and wins pretty easy for me. A big-footed, heavy-boned one that's correct on her feet and legs, one that's elevated to the point of her shoulder, and you get your hands on her, she blows the class away from just a width and muscularity standpoint. It's a really nice place to start. The one that's going to slot too, I love from a fore-rib perspective, an extra turn through her stifle, another one that's heavy-duty in terms of her bone work. So I compare her back to my personal favorite. I didn't think she was elevated there quite as much at the point of her shoulder. I think another one that we could just trim a little condition off of to make her a little bit firmer to compete with the one ahead of her. The one slotting out next is one that continued to grow on me. Basic build and design on that thing is extremely good. Height of shoulder's nice. Length and levelness of hip is good. She's one that doesn't give or gives up just a little too much as far as handling quality to compete with those two ahead of her. Young man's done an absolutely killer job of getting that one stuck. The one coming out next is a fresh, high-presented one. Young lady's done a good job of getting that one presented today. One that gives up some added shape right out of the backside of her shoulder. She's got spread there, just not quite as much square shape. Similar things can be said about her loin. I still think we can make her a shot bigger in her foot size as well. The one coming out next, I like the balance and pattern on. She gives up too much muscle up high to compete with the ones ahead of her. The ones that are going to round out the class do have more muscle than that ewe-lamb that's going to slot ahead of them. I think they just give up too much as far as build and balance to compete with the ones ahead of them. Let's go ahead and give all those kids a round of applause. A really nice class.
First place goes to Cody Stevenson, and second place goes to Elena Stevenson. Our next class is the medium weight black-faced market lamb class 3 of 129 to 131 pounds. In this class, we have Olivia Burkett, Brianna Pope, Riley Rankin, Clarissa Richards, Isaac Carter, Maxton Wall, and Cody Stevenson.
really nice top pair to sort here. But again, young lady kind of brings a gun to a knife fight, at least in my mind. This sheep, when she gets him propped up from the side, is just hard to ignore. He is so big-footed and heavy-duty in his structure. His underline reads of quality. His forerib shape is unreal. And you get your hands on that one. I don't think we've had one with that kind of touch all day today. Just so smooth and just wild when you get your hands on him. I think just a really nice place to start. He does have one place I'd change him. I'd relax him in his spine just a touch when we set him in motion. It's where the young man's actually does have the advantage. Might be the shaggiest legged one that we've seen, for me anyways, probably all summer. That thing's height of shoulder and levelness of design is absolutely incredible. So I compare him back to my personal favorite. He's not quite as impressive there as far as his chest floor. Didn't think he blended quite as well in terms of his hip-loin junction. Young man does a really good job of getting that one presented. The one coming out next is a good, basic, fault-free kind of a sheep. One that I like from a handling perspective as far as spread. Didn't think he was quite as firm and hard as maybe the two directly ahead of him. Didn't think he had quite as much right there in the seat of his pants as well. Young man's ewe lamb is one that studies with a high-quality look from the profile. Awesome in terms of her general build and heaviness of structure. She needs to be better when we get our hands on her. She needs to be just square and firmer to the touch, but another nice one. Be fun to put her into production. The one coming out next, young man's done a killer job of getting that thing presented. Heavy duty in terms of her structure, good in terms of her underline quality. One that gets a little weaker and easier there about her top line. I think we could freshen her up in her handle as well. Ewe lamb coming out next has more spread and dimension up high and a square in terms of her loin edge. Need to fix her in terms of her hide, and I still think we can fix her in terms of her upper dock. Similar things could be said about the one to round out the class. Not a bad sheep by any means. Foot and bones, really good. In terms of balance, I still think she checks that box. Need to stouten her up in terms of her upper hip and maybe pull her apart just a touch in terms of her lower skeleton, but an excellent class with a really nice one to win that particular class. Let's give them a round of applause.
First place goes to Brianna Pope. Second to Cody Stevenson. We will now show for the champion and reserve champion, medium weight blackface market lamb. This class should have Brianna Pope, Cody Stevenson, Elena Stevenson, and Addie Schroeder in it.
Division One, I do think there was some discussion to be had and some thought that needed to go into it. At least from my perspective, this particular division, I don't think there's any discussion. I think there's one that wins, and I think he wins for fun. From there, I think it gets pretty close, but I still think there's one that just has to go reserve. I guess it's non-negotiable for me. There's a champion, there's a reserve. Put the mic down. Let's give these kids one last round of applause. A really, really good division.
Receiving champion is Brianna Pope. Reserve champion goes to Cody Stevenson. We're now getting ready to start the heavyweight blackface market lamb class. We need class 1 in the back of the ring and class 2 on your way up. Our first class is 134 to 138 pounds. This class has Blake Giersdorf, Eli Hardaway, Maxton Wall, and Brianna Poe.
Young lady kind of brings us another one that just has to win this particular class. As far as a muscularity standpoint, I think he's got the most. You get your hands on him. He's very impressive as far as his rack shape. So wide and fresh in his loin and leaves you with a very impressive view from behind. Yet coupled that image from the side is just absolutely hard to ignore. Does a killer job of getting that one stuck. The one that's slotting two I think is very similar as far as type and kind goes over the one that's going to win. Good in terms of rack shape and loin shape. Big in terms of his pin. Studies with a balanced, attractive look from the side. It's like comparing back to my personal favorite. He's a shot flatter there in terms of his fore-rib shape. Shot narrower there when we study him in terms of his base. Just not as quite as much horsepower as we see in the one that's going to win. The one's going to slot next, a balanced, attractive sheep from the profile that's awesome on his feet and legs. One that gives up too much muscle up high to compete with those ones ahead of him in this particular class. The young man's done a really good job of getting that one presented as well. It's going to round out our class. Not a bad sheep by any means. I do think has more muscle up high than the one directly ahead of her. One that I think, again, is just too off as far as her lines and proportions. A little too deep in terms of her chest. But let's give those kids a round of applause. Really in that particular class.
Winner of that class is Brianna Pope. Second place went to Eli Hardaway. We need the heavyweight black base market land class 3 of 151 to 169 pounds to come to the back of the arena. Our next class here is 141 to 150 pounds. This class has Brady Turner, Diane Kiley, Cody Taggart has 2, Riley Rankin has 2, Colin Taggart, and Autumn Barrett.
Young man up here in the center of the ring's got my personal favorite, and one that I think just becomes the hardest to fault. I think he's a balanced, attractive sheep from the outside that's got some heavy dutiness of foot and bone. He's good as far as his neck attachment. For me, when you get your hands on him is where he wins. I think he's square and fresh in terms of his handle. He's so wide and big in terms of his loin edge. I think just a really nice place to start. The dark-hided sheep coming out next is one that hit me as soon as they came in the ring. Heavy duty as far as his foot and bone. Tall at the point of his shoulders, jet level down his top, level enough out of his hip. He's one for me that when we get right on top of him is where I start to take some issue with him. It's a shot narrower there in terms of his base. Didn't think he had quite as much just spread up high, but man, I love that thing's balance and silhouette. Young lady's done a really good job of getting that one presented. Lamb coming out next is wanting to give the young man some troubles, but man, he's kept at it and doing a really good job. One that I think as you continue to dig into the details, she becomes really hard to fault. Good in terms of her lines and proportions. She's jet level down her top and out of her hip. Good as far as her feet and legs go. So we compare her to the ones ahead of her. I didn't think she was quite tall enough there at the point of her shoulder. Thought she round out just a little bit to her loin edges. Similar things could be said about the one coming out next. Neck attachment's really good. Love her at the point of her shoulder. She's jet level down her top. She's one that for me just gets a little weaker and easier there right in terms of her hip-loin junction. We could just square her up and freshen her there. I think she's packing on just a little bit more over her forerib than some of the ones ahead of her as well. The one coming out next, bigger-footed, heavier bone than the one directly ahead of her. So bold and practical there in her rib. She's another one that's pushing a little bit more condition than I would term ideal. We could just square her up and firmen her up in her loin edge. We could move her up a spot or two. The one coming out next, I do think is leaner in terms of his condition, has plenty of spread up high, and I love that thing's just foot and bone. Gets a little off from a balance perspective, a little lower there at the point of his shoulder and deeper and plainer about his chest. I think a nice carcass-driven kind of a sheep. The one coming out next, I think, reads with a higher quality look from the profile, gives up too much base width and spread up high. The one that's going to round out the class, heavy duty in terms of his bone, really big in terms of his hip, little off as far as his lines and proportions, could fix him in terms of his hide. Let's give all those kids a round of applause. A really nice class.
Riley Rankin received both first and second in that class. Our next class is the 151 to 169 pounds. This class we have Emmeline Wright, Autumn Merritt, Aiden Bardole, Clarissa Richards, Gentry Shear, Eli Hardaway, and Kirby Stevens.
getting up here in size, but boy, when they're this fresh and just this high quality, it just makes them really, really fun to sort. Young lady's got one that wins, and he wins this particular class for fun. We talked that middleweight division just about that thing's just touch and handling quality, and this thing might be even better than that. I get goosebumps just thinking about his handling quality. He's very, very good there. But yet from the side, he's still an athlete. He's up in his chest. His length and levelness, the hip is good, and we set him in motion, and he maintains that same kind of image. Just a really, really nice one to go ahead and win this class. The one that's going to slot 2, heavy duty in terms of his bone work, good in terms of his lines and proportions. So I compare him back to my personal favorite. He's just a little bit staler there and drier to the touch and over his loin edge. Another one that gives up some as far as with a pin to the one directly ahead of him. The one coming out next I do think is a shot fresher when we get our hands right on him. I think he reads to be a little bit more dynamic there right at the top side of his hip. He's one that for me gets a little bit coarser about his top line and rounder in his lower shoulder. If we can make him just a little bit shallower there, we can move him up a spot. The speckle that's going to go ahead and slot next, a bold-ribbed, practical sheep that's got all kinds of spread up high. So we compare him to the ones ahead of him. He's more average as far as his foot size. Don't think he has quite as much shape right out of the backside of his shoulder. Sheep coming out next, a higher cutability one than the one directly ahead of him. Long spine, long hip kind of a sheep. One that gets off as far as his lines and proportions. Just wants to cut up in his flank a touch. Think he could use a shot more forerib as well. The one coming out next, another long-spined, high cutability kind of a lamb. Gives up too much muscle when we get our hands on him to compete with the ones ahead of him. The one to round out the class, not a bad one by any means. Length and levelness, the hip is good. I love that thing's length, the hind saddle. Think he's really good as far as his shoulder design. One that gives up too much muscle right out of the backside of his shoulder. Another one we could pull apart in his lower skeleton. Let's give all those kids a round of applause. Another really nice class with a really nice...
So Evelyn Wright got first, and Autumn Barrett got second in that class. This lamb right here with Cody Stevenson was our champion rate of gain. We've got a banner and a ribbon for him. Congratulations. We're now showing for our champion and reserve champion, heavyweight black-faced market lamb. We need the first class of the Community Lamb Barn Project to start working their way to the back of the ring. Our next classes will be the Community Lamb Barn Project.
out here, and I guess we're not going to take much time if we don't need to. Kind of like in the last division, to me, this one's non-negotiable. There's one that not only is he the most athletic and best in terms of his general build, he couples that with being deeper and fuller through his twist, and I still think tucked up shallower in his chest. From there, it gets just as easy, I guess, for reserve. This thing is just got to go there. Like I said, maybe not quite as neat as far as depth of twist and just up there as far as his chest floor, but he's nicking right on his heels. I think if he was just a little bit better as far as his hock when we set him in motion, he'd push our champion extremely hard. Let's give these kids a round of applause. I'll go name your champion in reserve.
All right, your champion heavyweight black-faced lamb was Emmeline Wright, and your reserve champion was Brianna Poe. We're getting ready to start our community lamb barn project classes. Some years back, the Greene County lamb producers got together and started a program. And these are kids that would not otherwise be able to show lambs throughout the year, and so they lamb producers got together. They furnish the lambs for this. The kids come out, they do chores. They have a couple of sessions each week on how to present their lambs. And then they're involved in the feeding, the shearing, and the grooming. And this is a group from town or otherwise could not be able to show.
Supposedly with age, wisdom comes. I'm old, I have a little bit of wisdom. And here's the two things about this. This is probably the best thing that lamb producers have ever done. We've seen kids change, mature, take on responsibility. Not all of them are great successes, but we got some real success stories, and we love that part of it. The other part of it is we're all getting old. So if there's some young people out there that would like to help us with this next year, please come sign up now, anytime in the future. We need help to keep this project going. Thank you. While I got the mic, we'll be serving hamburgers and lamb brats. The lamb producers will be donating that at the Clover Cafe, so when you get a break and go forward, be sure to stop and get those.
Yes, we definitely could use some younger blood amongst us. This class, on the community barn project, these lambs are all furnished by a couple of growers, local growers here, so we want to thank them for furnishing us these lambs. This first class is the 93 to 109 pound class. We have Mackenzie Wall, Kenley Dezuris, Gentry Hedges, Parker Deersdorf, Olivia Burkett, Rachel Thulin, and Nora Hogue in this class. Hogue, sorry.
This is honestly one of my favorite things about the Greene County Fair is this project in this class right here. Whenever I'm anywhere and anybody asks me some cool things I've seen at shows, this is the very first thing that I bring up every single time. I think this is an absolutely phenomenal project, and to see how far it continues to come every time I've had the opportunity to sort this show is absolutely phenomenal. So hopefully somebody from the area signs up and helps these old guys out, because this thing really needs to continue. A young lady here closest to me with this brockle, I think's got to win this particular class in my mind. A bold-ribbed one that's got the most spread and dimension up high, still studies with a balanced, attractive look from the side and maintains that when we set them in motion. I think just a really nice place to start. I love the build and balance on the ewe-lamb that's going to go ahead and slot two. Heavier duty in terms of her foot size and bone work. Levelness of design and length and levelness of hip is extremely good. Needs to be more muscular when we get our hands right on her. Just gives up some added shape and width of her rack and loin, but I think another high-quality one from the outside. The one coming out next, I think, probably has the class advantage as far as width and spread up high. Big and square in her rack, wide and fresh in her loin. Gives up some added muscle from behind and gets a little deeper and plainer about her chest. Young lady's done a really good job of getting that one presented. The weather coming out next is another tall-shouldered, level pattern one. Length and levelness of hip is extremely good. Another one that gets a little too flat in terms of his forerib shape and a little narrower right there out of the backside of his shoulder. I think more days on feed will probably really be at his advantage. The one coming out next, I like the build and balance on as far as underline quality and skeleton that he has. I think is extremely good. Another one that's a little disappointing when we get our hands right on him. He's easily the plainest out of the backside of his shoulder and the narrowest in terms of his loin. The one coming out next is one that's bold-ribbed and practical, great on his feet and legs. It's a little off there as far as his hip and lacking some muscle when we get in behind him, but another high-quality sheep that the young lady's done a good job with. The one to round out the class, not a bad sheep by any means. Better as far as his chest floor than the one directly ahead of him. Length of hind saddle is extremely good. Need to pull her apart as far as her lower skeleton and her upper dock to compete. Let's give all those kids a round of applause. A really nice class.
First place goes to Kinley, Missouri. Second to Bryn Doolin. Our next class is 110 to 116 pounds. We have Clarissa Richards, Olivia Burkett, Claire Smith, Mackenzie Wall, Maxton Wall, and Blake Kearsdorf. When the kids sign up for this program, they can sign up to either take one or two lambs. A lot of these kids have never seen or worked with a lamb before until this year.
Young lady with the speckle closest to me, he's got my personal favorite. One that's just so fresh and good in terms of his handling quality, yet he's a balanced, attractive sheep that stands on plenty of foot and bone. I think just a really nice place to go ahead and start any class. The one that's going to go ahead and slot to hit me extremely hard as soon as he came in the ring. Heavy-duty, practical kind of sheep that's good on his feet and legs. He's one that, as I compare him back to my personal favorite, I thought he got a little bit weaker and easier there about his top line. Didn't think he was quite as impressive when we got in right behind him, splitting hairs between two extremely high-quality sheep. The ewe-lamb coming out next is the one that originally I gravitated towards from the profile. So heavy-duty as far as her bone work goes and good in her underline. Jet level down her top and out of her hip. So we compare her to the two wethers ahead of her. I think she gives up some added muscle. She's a little off there in terms of her handling quality today. A little bit narrower from behind. We could square her up in her hock just a touch as well. The ewe-lamb coming out next. The young lady's done a really good job of getting presented. Bolder in her rib than the one directly ahead of her. Fresher in terms of her loin edge than the one directly ahead of her. A little bit lower there at the point of her shoulder and just plainer in terms of her profile, but another fresh, high-presented one. The one coming out next I do think is more elevated at the point of her shoulder. I think she's cranked higher there at the base of her dock. One that studies with a high-quality look, but when we get on top of her, there just needs to be more of her. She's plain and round out of the backside of her shoulder. Same can be said about her loin edge. And the sheep to round out the class is another bold-ribbed, practical one. Good on her feet and legs. Gets a little plain from the profile and gives up some shape up high, but a really nice class. Let's give those kids a round of applause.
All right, first goes to Claire Smith, second, Clarissa Richards. This next class is 118 to 157 pounds. This class consists of Maxton Wall, Ava Allen, Clarissa Richards, Gentry Hedges, and Henry Missouri.
Young lady with the speckle weather closest to me. He's got my personal favorite, and I think wins from a muscles perspective. Get your hands right on him. He's square, he's wide, he's fresh. He's a monster in terms of his upper hip and shape through his lower leg, and he's still a balanced, attractive sheep from the side. Young lady's done a really, really good job of getting that one stuck. The one coming out next has some parts and pieces I can really appreciate. Bigger in terms of his foot size, more extended as far as his neck goes, lays in really smooth about his shoulder, and has a really good look as far as his top line and length and levelness the hip goes. He's one that's a little softer to the touch today, and he's getting a little plainer about his chest floor, but another one, young lady's done a really good job of getting him presented. The one coming out next studies with a fresh, high-presented look from the outside, one that's really good as far as the turn to his cage and the spread that he has to his loin. We get our hands on him, and he's just pushing the acceptability for me as far as his softness goes. Need to trim him up, and we could just probably move him up a spot or two. The one coming out next is a higher cutability sheep. Length of spine's good, length of hip's good. One gets a little bit weaker and easier there about his top line and rounds out of his hip just a touch. I think we could just widen him up there as far as his loin. The black face that's going to round out the class. Top line quality's extremely good. Heavy duty as far as her bone work goes. One that falls out from a balance perspective for me. She's easily the deepest about her chest and the tightest about her flank. We could still fix her there in her hip-loin junction. Let's give all those kids a round of applause. Another really nice class.
Receiving first in that class is Clarissa Richards. Second is Ava Allen. We will now be showing for the champion and reserve champion of the Community Land Barn Project. We should have Finley Zurich, Greene Thuin, Clarissa Richards has 2, Claire Smith, and Ava Allen in this class. The winner of this class will be getting a plaque sponsored by People's Bank.
Again, my hat's off to all the breeders that are behind the scenes on this particular program, because again, I think this is absolutely amazing and probably one of the greater things that I've ever had the opportunity to judge. But with that said, I do think there's one individual out here that comes out and just kind of wins. From a handling perspective, I think they're the best. From a balance and build perspective, I think they're at least in the top pair. Gets really close, I think, for reserve between a couple of them that are pretty different in terms of their type and kind. There's one that I think's maybe just a little bit leaner and fresher to the touch today, and I still think maybe balances with just a little bit more youthful look from the profile. But again, congratulations to everybody involved in this. Thank you, kids, for stepping out and trying something new, because this is an awesome deal. Let's give all these kids a round of applause. I'll go name your champion in reserve.
All right, the champion was Claire Smith. She will receive a trophy in memory of David Becker. She will receive a banner from the Greene County Lamb Producers and a plaque from People's Bank. Your reserve champion was Henry Gazuras. All right, as I said earlier, when they sign up for this program, they can sign up for either one or two lambs. Our next classes is for the Community Lamb Barn Project pair class. Our first class is going to be from 212 to 221 pounds. And it's going to have Mackenzie Wall, Olivia Burkett, and Maxton Wall in this one. If you look at the back of your program, you'll see we have a production class that's determined by the back back ribeye. This year, the winner of that class is Madison Carson. We have a banner for her if she'd like to come in and receive it.
we get into our pen of two kind of market lambs here, and there's kind of some debate, I guess, how maybe these should be sorted. For me, I want them as close and as similar as they can be, and as high end from a carcass standpoint as we can get. And these two ewe lambs closest to me, I think, are spot on. They're good as far as their condition goes and handling quality. You can almost close your eyes and they could be interchangeable. From the outside, they're both long spine, long hipped kind of sheep. One's maybe got a little more bone than the other and a little neater about her chest. I think that's getting pretty picky on a really nice pair of them. The two young ladies that are going to be next, I think, got two that are kind of different in their type and kind, and it's kind of the mindset. If we could combine the two, I think we'd probably have a better animal. One of them, I think, is extremely good as far as her shape and touch that she has to her rack and loin, and she's bigger in her upper hip. And the young lady Speckle Weather's one that we really got to appreciate the build and balance and skeleton on, just maybe needs a little bit more muscle. So again, I think we can combine those two. I think we got a really special kind of animal. The ones that are going to round out the class, not bad by any means. I think they're just very different in their type and kind. We got one that's kind of a little bigger and stouter, one that's a little smaller and prettier. But I think, again, we got three really, really nice pairs. Let's give all these kids a round of applause. Really nice class.
All right, first place goes to Maxton Wall. Second, Olivia Brick. Our next class is 225 to 285 pounds. This class consists of Gentry Hedges, Clarissa Richards, and Kinley Missouri. I'd like to give a shout out to Melissa Barrett. She's been heading up this program for the last couple of years on working with these kids a couple of nights a week since the weigh-in. And she's been working with teaching these kids how to set up these lambs. The land producers help out, but she's been heading up this and she's done a good job. So we appreciate it, Melissa. We're going to need the home raised and bred market lamb class 1 to the back of the line, please. Well, after that, we're going to need all the market lamb classes, first and second place, to come and get ready. So we will be showing for Grand and Reserve Champion Market Lamb. So if you were in one of those classes, make sure you're getting ready. I do want to give a shout out to these kids today. They've done a really good job of being on time and handling their lambs and being back here when they need to be. So as things are things moving along, you guys have done a great job today. We will be doing the Clover kids before we do the pens of 3 and the showmanship division. So Clover kids will be before those classes.
Got a pair of speckle weathers up here on the top end that I guess I was just told, kind of luck of the draw. The kids didn't necessarily get to pick out their animals. This young lady got pretty lucky, or this young individual got really lucky with kind of this draw. Two extremely similar in their type and kind, and I think they're very good carcass-driven sheep. Again, close your eyes, and then they can be basically interchangeable. One of them's maybe just a shot leaner than the other. That's getting really nitpicky on a pair that I think go together very, very well. Kind of there in the middle, we've got two, again, kind of on opposite ends of the spectrum as far as condition goes, but as far as width, spread, and muscle, I think very, very similar. Got a little bit of a size difference there, but we won't hold that against them too much. Again, another awfully high-quality pair. To round out the class, I think we've got some that just give up a little bit more muscle to the ones directly ahead of them. They're good built, good made kind of sheep. Just need to spread them apart from a terminal perspective. Let's give all those kids a round of applause. Another really, really nice group.
First place goes to Clarissa Richards, and second to Kinley Mazuris in that class. All right, this class is for the home raised and bred market lamb. It's 107 to 118 pounds is in this class. We have Cody Stevenson, Elena Stevenson, and Emma Stevenson.
Got a really easy class winner, I guess, in my mind, and one that can compete, again, kind of on any stage she wants to go to. I think she's the combination of the two that are going to stand behind her. She's up in her chest. She's great in terms of her flank line. She's awesome in terms of her rack shape and loin shape. We set her into motion. She's still flexible off both ends of her skeleton. I think just a really, really nice one to go ahead and win this particular division. The one that's going to slot two, I think, goes there from a balance and build perspective. Little girl, big sheep, but she does a really, really good job of getting that one presented. Up in her chest, progressively gets deeper and softer to her flank. Length of hip is extremely good, and length of stride I think is probably best in class. So we compare her to the two on both sides of her. She gives up some muscle up high and maybe just a little there in the seat of her pants, but I still like that thing's just build and balance. The one that's going to slot three I do think has an obnoxious amount of muscle when we get in behind her. She's so bold in terms of her cage and big in terms of her back. Still good in terms of her underline quality, For me, she's a little too short and stumpy there when we study her up through her front 1/3. She's a little bit straighter and more restricted out of her hock. Still going to be a pretty fun breeding piece, I think, for this young individual to take home and put into production. Let's go ahead and give these three a round of applause. A really, really great class.
Your champion goes to Cody Stevenson, and the reserve champion goes to Emma Stevenson. All right, we're getting ready to show for the grand champion Market Lamb.
Boy, I knew this would be tough just because all the way from our whiteface brockle division all the way to the home raised division, I've been absolutely blown away with the depth and quality, not just of the sheep and the caliber of them, but of the showmen as well. You drive an awful lot of miles and go to a lot of shows to find kids of this caliber, and my hat's off to everybody ringside here because this is what it takes. It takes a good backing from the community to make shows like this happen. So we've kind of discussed them all a little bit in their divisions and classes, and I think there is about 8 of these things I'd take home, and I'd feel like we still got a chance to ring a bell there in Des Moines or whatever the future is. Kind of like we said in the ULAM show, I'm going to be there at the Bear Down or Heartland Throwdown, I think it's called now. I'll be cheering you guys on because I think we got a shot for sure. There's a pair of them, I guess, that I eventually kind of worked my way down to. We'll discuss the 3 that I think all deserve to be discussed because I do think that there's 3 sheep here that are just next level good. This one that wins our first division of black faces. If you don't like that look right there, go buy a boat. You need a new hobby. That thing's stifle shape from the profile coupled with his chest floor is just absolutely unreal. That's a big league skull shape. That's a neat neck attachment. He appears to be a little coarse and off about his top line from my angle. Just because I do think he's got so much back shape. It appears to be worse than it actually is. I love that sheep moving. I love that sheep stuck. I think that's a really, really nice one. The one directly behind him that wins our middleweight division of black faces, I think that sheep's got a look built for the fall. That thing's so elevated in his front end. He's so wide at his points and his feature. I love that thing's height of shoulder. I love that thing's forerib shape. If we compare him to maybe the 2 on both sides of him, he gives up a little bit there right in the seat of his pants. I think he's the greenest in terms of his condition, and he just needs to blend a little bit smoother. I think that sheep's better days are ahead of him. I think that thing's an absolute beast. The one behind him's maybe a little bit on the opposite end of that spectrum. Ask the young lady what he weighs, and it was 151, and maybe that's a little big for me at this stage in the game. He's not a big done one. I think that's just a big good one. I think he's the neatest about his shoulder. He's cool in terms of his forerib shape and tucked up so shallow there. Again, we talked him and the one directly in front of him in their divisions. It's like handling glass. Those things are so smooth, and their touch and tone is so good. He's got more volume and muscle through his lower leg than the one directly in front of him. Maybe not quite as overwhelming as the one 2 there in front of him. But, man, I think that thing's got plenty of shape and plenty of look. If we're going to change him, I do think maybe he's just a little plainer there in the upper part of his hip compared to the 2 ahead of him. I wish he was just a little bit more white in his feature. He's kind of got that sandy color that kind of throws him off a little bit for me out there. Wish he was maybe just a little bit whiter there at his points as the one directly in front of him is. Again, we're getting really nitpicky. We're talking about things we need to focus on if we're trying to win state fairs and national shows. I think that sheep's that kind of caliber. I think he's really, really good. So that's kind of the way I see him, and I break him down. I guess I wouldn't argue with you too much if maybe you had one of those 3 you like better than maybe the one I like best. Wouldn't argue with you if maybe there's even one on that other side that you like as well, because I think this show's depth and quality has been absolutely unreal. Let's give these kids and breeders one last round of applause. My hat's off to everybody. It's been amazing. I'll go pick your champion in reserve.
All right, your grand champion is April Shahan. She will be receiving a trophy in memory of Roger Naylor. She will be receiving a Market Lamb buckle, a plaque, both sponsored by Home State Bank, and she'll be receiving a banner from the Greene County Lamb Producers. As well as she will be going to the Heartland Throwdown. Our reserve champion is Evelyn Wright. She will be receiving a reserve champion plaque sponsored by Fairview Vet Clinic and also a banner. April is now eligible for the Heartland Throwdown. The champion from today's show will advance to it. The champion will also receive a qualifying banner that is graciously been donated by our local Heartland Throwdown sponsor, Fairview Vet Clinic. Representatives from our county will compete against 7 other champions. We will welcome you to join us at the Story County Fairgrounds in Nevada on Saturday, July 27th. The show will begin at 12:30 p.m. The winner selected at the Heartland Throwdown will then punch their ticket to the All Iowa Showdown in August. Come out and support your youth from Team Greene County.
Me? Yeah. I don't know. Whenever they start calling. No, I mean. Yeah. Is there another event there today? Okay, yeah. Is there a break right here today? Or are they starting here soon? Okay, I'll just sort of get that right. Okay, I'll come get it right now.
All right, we're getting ready to move on to the Clover Kids, Little Lambs. This is our future. All right, our first class of Little Lambs, Clover Kids. We have Nadia Hoyt, Logan Gearsdorf, Cody Pope, Montana Kylie, Gentry Hedges, Georgia Hedges, out of this print here, Anna Thomas, Autumn Stevenson, and Amber Stevenson. I do want to remind all the kids out in the barn, if you receive champion or reserve champion today, make sure you come to the back of the ring and get your picture taken, please.
First heat of Clover kids, and kind of like we saw all day earlier, not an easy class by any means. A good thing for me, we got to name them all champions, I guess, or send them all out of here with blue ribbons. Congratulations to them. Future's obviously bright. Just some kind of brief statements. Didn't expect really to see a South out of that caliber, and the young man showing well beyond his years. Got a sheep that I like an awful lot. One that I think has certainly just got a really, really bright future ahead of him. Two young ladies directly behind him. Those are big sheep and itty-bitty kids. Hats off to that crew for keeping those things stuck and doing a really, really good job. I think they're all doing great. We're all at different kind of experience levels. Some of them it's their first year, they said. Some of them it's their second. Some of them have done it countless times, and I think it shows. Again, hats off to all these kids and everybody in the background. Let's go ahead and give them a round of applause as we send them back. And that's what we're doing.
All right, we're getting ready for class 2 of the Clover kids. This class, we have Mackenzie McNeil, Lee Holtz, Chase Stroud, Walker Barrett, Ashley Allen, and Harrison Smith. If you're showing pin 3, start working your way up to the back of the ring. Class 1, you'll be on deck.
Absolutely outstanding group of showmen with really, really good sheep. Again, they're all winners in my mind. Can outshone me on my best day. Just some general comments. Young lady with the baby doll sat down up front. He's kind of a wild man for you, but you're keeping up and doing a really, really good job. Said it was your first year doing it, and I'm excited to see kind of how you progress going into the future years because you got a really, really good foundation here. Young man directly behind her kind of told me he's not having the best time doing this, but that's okay. Showing sheep's really not for everybody, and we got to experiment and figure that out. Hopefully he keeps at it and you keep doing this. I thought he did a really, really good job. We run into 3 or 4 young men that I think show well beyond their years. They're showing sheep that are probably outweighing them by a good amount, and they're all doing it. We got 3 that decided to come out without halters. That's extremely good. You know that they're doing their work at home with their projects or their older siblings' projects, and that's just great. Let's go ahead and give all these kids a round of applause. Another exceptional class.
This is our first class of 10 of 3. We have Peyton Gollard and Elena Stevenson.
Group closest to me is going to win this particular class in a group that I could have assumed we probably do a pin at 3.
We got some siblings that I know we've been showing kind of all day, and they've shown extremely similar sheep that are extremely similar as far as handling, quality, and condition, carcass-driven power sheep that I think all match extremely well. From there, we've got some high-cut ability sheep that are really lean in their condition, still good on their feet and legs. I think they just need more muscle to compete with this pen just directly ahead of them, but not a bad group by any means. Let's give those kids a round of applause. 2 really nice groups.
Elena Stevenson takes first, Peyton Gollard second. Our next class, of 10 of 3, will be Isaac Carver and Cody Stevenson. I'm sorry, Isaac Scratch on this one. For this class, will be Cody Stevenson.
tell the kids when the sheep barn rolls up here, you need to have you tell me if you're not selling your market land. We have a bid from Colfax for $2 a pound. That's probably the best price we've ever gotten for market land out of up there. So Colfax livestock has been really good to us. So if you guys just please mark off the ones you're not going to sell, try to get all that organized before somebody uses it. Thank you.
Kind of repeat myself from his little sister's pen there in the first class. He's drug a bunch of sheep here today that I think are all extremely similar in their type and kinds. These are maybe a little bit bigger than hers and got a little bit more muscle, still similar in terms of our build and our balance and our bone. Yet when we can put our hands on them, man, they're very, very, very similar. Let's go ahead and give him a round of applause for bringing us out a really nice group.
Cody wins that class. We got one more class, 10 to 3. This is our heavier one. Eli Hardaway, Riley Rain in this class.
Pin closest to me has got to be my personal favorite. I think just from a muscle perspective, they've got to win. A bigger in their ribs, bigger in their backs, stouter in their hips. They meet the surface with more circumference of foot and bone and base. I think just a really, really nice place to start. From there, there's another good group that I think is a little bit leaner in terms of their condition today. We've got one that I think kind of falls out. He's kind of bigger, stouter, and heavier muscled, kind of like these guys closer to me. We got two that are a little bigger, prettier sheep that are a little flatter bodied, a little narrower gauged. But let's go ahead and give those kids a round of applause. Really nice class.
Ryan Rankin received first, Eli Hardaway in that class. Now we're going to show for the grand champion and reserve grand champion of Pen 3.
runners out here, and I guess for me,
There's one group that I think just wins and wins pretty easy. Not only are they one of the stouter, heavier muscled groups that's really uniform in terms of their type and kind, I think they're just the highest quality trio as well. They've done an extremely good job of getting presented all day. This young man that won that middle class, he'll be your champion. Pennant 3 will follow up with the ones out of Class 1 to be reserved. Really, really nice. Let's give them a round of applause.
Which one? 31 and then 60 by second.
Cody Stevenson took first as the grand champion, and reserved was Elena Stevenson. We are now going to be moving to our showmanship division. Our first class will be the senior showmanship. If you're showing today in the showmanship, please get your lambs ready. Start working your way to the back of the ring. This is our senior showmanship. We should have Aiden Bartle, Autumn Barrett, Grace Hardaway, Jackson Turner, Isaac Carver, Braden Turner, Addie Schroeder, Kalia Minahan, Tyler Pope, and Riley Rankin.
showmanship. All the kids clearly know the basics. We've seen them showing all day, and I think that this is probably
one of the tougher county fairs I've had the opportunity to sort as far as showmanship goes. There are 3 in this particular heat that I think sort themselves out. The young man there fourth, the young lady with that dark fibered sheep, and then the young man right behind them. I think those 3 kind of sorted themselves up to the top kind of all day, at least from a showmanship perspective. And I'll just kind of break down those 3 and kind of how I see them. That young man there kind of there in the back is one that all day today we've commented on his ability to get everything he can out of those sheep. Feet and legs are always right where they should be. I don't think I saw him show one all day that it even acted up for him. So clearly his homework's done. His partner here today is cooperating with him extremely well. I love his hand placement. I love his ability to keep that sheep's head and neck right where it should be. To me, arguably the best as far as our nose placement of these 3. I think that head and neck comes out right the way I should. For me, I did think from time to time you didn't get quite the brace as the 2 directly in front of you, and I do think you just got a little bit more of your leg around the front end of that sheep than I would necessarily term ideal. You're also the tallest one of the 3, so the legs got to go somewhere. So I get that, but that's just kind of my nitpickiness that I've seen between those 3. The young lady directly in front of him is one that I think gets a rock star brace out of that thing every time. I think she appears to be the most comfortable. Also, I think you're the right height for these sheep as well. I think you get a really, really good job every time I get my hands on it. I thought for me personally that nose just creeped up a little bit taller than I would term ideal. Just had her looking too much at the stars from time to time. I thought your rear wheels were just out of place just a scotch from time to time. Again, we're splitting hairs between 3 showmen. I think we pull them around in the country or anywhere in the country, and they're extremely, extremely good. That leaves the young man directly in front of him. One of the two that's a little bit taller, so again, he's got some legs, got to go somewhere. His ability to still show off that sheep's front end, I think, is second to none. I love his hand placement on that sheep's head. I think he does an extremely good job again. Head and neck is right where it should be. He gets a really, really good brace out of him. I thought he did the absolute best job here today all day. He'll be your champion senior showman. Let's give these kids a round of applause. A really, really good group.
Your champion senior showman is Tyler Bowe. Now we're ready for the intermediate showmanship. In this class, we have Kinley DeZuris, Madison Karstens, Braden Thurman, Eli Hardaway, Cheyenne Kiley, Cody Taggart, Mackenzie Wall, and Aspen Jacobs. Tyler received a banner and also a traveling trophy that's been around for a while, donated from the Kidney family.
We drop down into the intermediates, and I don't think we lose any depth or
Quality as far as the showman goes, because I still think our top end is extremely good. The whole class actually is extremely good. Again, we know all the basics. We got all different sizes and experience levels as far as the kid goes in this particular class. There is one individual that I think kind of sorts themselves out, and I think they have all day today. They've done an extremely good job with everyone they brought in. Didn't matter where they placed in class. They always had that thing looking 110% and is getting as much as they can out of them. We get them out here in this particular heat. They get the best drive out of them. They're the fastest at getting them set up, and they get as much look and elevation out of the sheep as they can. I'm going to put the mic down, and we'll go name your champion. Let's give this group of kids a round of applause. And
Cody Taggart will be your champion intermediate showman. You will receive a trophy in memory of Connie and Tiffany, and also receive a banner and a ribbon. Our next class is the junior showmanship. We have several in this class. We have Ayla Allen, Stella Carter, Elena Stevenson, Parker Gearsdorf, Clarissa Richards, Emma Greene, Blake Gearsdorf, Tindry Hedges, Nora Hoyt, Olivia Burkett, Emma Minahan, Keegan Minahan, April Shahan, Becca Shahan, Claire Smith, Emma Stevenson, Colin Taggart, Maxon Wall, and Peyton Zollers.
Man, this is absolutely incredible to me. Not only just from the quality of showmen that we have out here right now, but from the number of quality showmen we have. I don't think I've been to a county fair with a junior just class this large. That's this deep and this good. There's 4 or 5 of these kids that again, I think we take anywhere in the country at any level, and we're instantly competitive and we're ringing some bells. There are 2 that I think are absolutely next level good, that are leagues beyond their years. And I'm going to go ahead and assume you guys are sisters at this point, but you're really different in some of the things that I think you do extremely well. The young gal up front, I think you're a shot more accurate with your feet and leg placement. I prefer the way you drop your hips and really get into that sheep, and the nose, I think, just levels out just a shot better. I think pedigree-wise, I don't know if you're going to grow much, but if you do, I think you're more set up to be an elite-level showman as a tall kid because you get down low the way you should. I think you're showing like an 18-year-old. You're an absolute stud. Nothing went wrong with what you're doing here. I prefer when you set them in motion, your posture and the way you stand up and behind that sheep's shoulder, got goosebumps. You can't teach kids that. Like, that's natural. You're an absolute stud, both of you guys. Again, I thought maybe that nose just creeped up a little bit, and I thought your rear legs were just off just a little bit from time to time. I don't want to start a family feud. We're going to use the one up front to be champion. You're going to be reserve. I think you guys are both going to be nipping at each other's heels this whole go.
Right? Is that Becca or? That's Becca, right? No, it's April. April. All right. Abril? It's not April, it's Abril.
All right, your champion junior showman is Admiral Shahan. She will be receiving a trophy from the Kinsey family and a banner, as well as a ribbon. We are now getting ready to show for Master Showmanship. We'll have 6 in this class for Master Showman. In this class, we will be choosing a champion and reserve champion.
While we're getting ready for the Master Showman, Jackson Turner, will you come in here? Jackson is a graduating senior. This year we're going to present him a check for $250 scholarship. I'd like to talk about this young man a little bit. He doesn't say much, but man, this kid can work. Whenever there's a job to be done, he gets it done. He helps us with weigh-ins. He helps me put hay away. So give Jackson a big hand for his career as a showman here in our sheep show. Thank you.
All right, our class here for Master Showmanship is Cody Stevenson, Emmeline Wright, Brianna Pope, Avril Shahan, Cody Taggart, Tyler Pope. The land producers are grilling burgers and brats today, so if you haven't had a chance to go get one, you might want to go get one. They're awful good.
moves up a little bit here. We have two other graduating seniors. We're presenting them a check too when I can get Randy to write it. Grace Hardaway and Cody Stevenson out there showing. So give them a big hand too. Thank you.
Save the toughest one for last. We bring out those three older individuals, and they've clearly earned their way here in years past, and very deservingly so. We've watched them show all day today, and again, they're the kids that get complimented for presentation and their showmanship abilities, because they take everything that they're showing to the next level. Taking nothing away from the three young men, but it comes down to the three young ladies for me in my mind, and I think they are a little bit different in the way that they show. There's one that I thought their partner maybe cooperated just a shade better than the other two, and I think, again, it's splitting hairs and personal preferences. I prefer their placement of their elbow. They tuck it in, and I prefer their placement of their front leg. I think they show off more front end. They've got a little bit bigger sheep, so maybe it's a little bit easier, but we're going to go out and give them one last look. Let's give these kids a round of applause. Absolutely incredible showmanship show.
Let's give Hunter a big round of applause for all the work he's done on our kids. He did a great job of communicating. judging a great sheep show. Thanks for all of you for coming out for the 2024 Greene County Sheep Show. Goats will start at 2:30. So the goat show will start in here at 2:30. Afterwards, your sheep exhibitors need to come in and help clean up the ring and tear down the middle part.
Your champion master showman was Emmeline Wright. She will receive a belt buckle sponsored by Landis. And your reserve champion master showman was Greene out of Pope. Thank you for coming today to our 2024 Sheep Show. If you haven't already got a lamb burger